Tui boys, and this has been a bit of a pet project for me over the lockdown in New Zealand, and being able to help teachers with tips and strategies, and not just teachers, parents, lots of people. But this particular episode is for teachers or anyone who wants to be able to use their smartphone or needs to do some videos for your work. And so if you're trying to get messages across, if you're trying to do lots of different things. So I'd love to welcome my guest. Julian Mather is from Brisbane, and I had the joy and pleasure of spending with him at a conference just before I came back before the big lockdown in New Zealand at the Professional Speakers Conference. And then I did an online workshop with him couple of weeks ago, maybe it was last week. They all sort of merge into one, don't they? So welcome, Julian. I'm excited you're here.
Thank you very much for the invitation. You want to talk about the rugby? No, let's not.
I don't think there is any. But yes. So tell us, I know a little bit about you. I know that you started off as a sniper in the army, and you were a videographer for National Geographic and the BBC. Then you've been a magician, a professional magician, and now you're what you call a smartphone evangelist. I love that. So tell us a little bit more about you and why you're excited about the smartphone and what it can do.
So I spent, that was my career path, and I spent 2.5 decades behind the camera. And then, I won't go into the story, but then I ended up in front of the camera with a YouTube channel with about 30 million views and 140,000 subscribers. And I've done over into the thousands of videos online now. And so I intimately know video from both sides of the camera. And I started to look into the business world because I could see the benefit of this amazing tool that we've got. I call it the Swiss Army knife of business tools. It will do so much for us. And I could see the benefits of it, but people in business weren't using it. So I started a little bit of a deep dive into it, looking what are the problems that they, got adopting this technology, which is so useful. And so I came up with a new process to teach video. And so I teach a process of head, heart, and hands, because if your head doesn't understand where the future of video is going, and it's going on your smartphone, by the way, and if your heart's not in the right place, if you don't believe that we are now in this era that we can communicate with our students, our colleagues, our customers, and that we can help them just virtually, because it's like sitting in a coffee table with someone across and going, tell me your problem. Oh, I think I can help you. I mean, this is basically how we're using video now, and people weren't doing it. And so getting people's heart in the right place, this belief that they are the right people to be on screen and they can do this as well as anybody else. You get your heart and your head in the right place, then the hands, the button pushing, becomes a whole heap easier. So I got this process and I've been taking it in for the last 18 months now to businesses of all size, into organizations, into government, and purely refining it. So I spent 25 to 30 years doing it, and now I've spent 2 years simplifying video down into a process that makes it attainable for most people.
So the head, heart, and hands, I love that. And the Swiss Army knife. And really the phone is, isn't it? Who would have thought that our grandparents would have even understood that we had a device that not only could call people, but has everything that you can possibly imagine on there. So absolutely, I love that Swiss Army knife. So Julian, of course, I work a lot with teachers. I know that teachers right now are having to teach online. They are going to be offering online learning for their children, and they're going to be making a lot of videos. And so, but this whole life of the children that we teach or that we reach is video based, Snapchat or visual based. Snapchat and Instagram and YouTube and TikToks are all the big thing for them. And so they are used to watching videos all the time. And what we want to make sure is that there are some tips and strategies and ideas that our teachers can be using so that children don't look at them and instantly groan and go, oh no, look how bad that is. Because there are so many little things that they can do. And by the way, for the viewers and the people listening right now, If you've got questions for Julian, please write them in the chat as we go, and we'll ask some questions for him as well. But Julian, tell me, we want teachers to be able to engage, inspire, and they are competing against the video world of the internet. So tell us some lovely little suggestions and ideas. Let's maybe start with the position of your phone or indeed your laptop. Because if you haven't got a smartphone, I'm doing this from my laptop today. It doesn't have to be from your phone. So where would you put the phone? What's some positioning ideas?
Let me just put that on pause for a moment and go back one step.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And just say that the place you want to start this is not going and buying technology. Now, I know New Zealand's in lockdown now, and that's a difficult thing to do. But just typically, people they're going to go into video and they go online and search, what do I need? And they'll watch these, well-meaning blogs, and I'll say, you need to get this sort of microphone, you need all these lights, and they buy this stuff. And I go into so many businesses who have this stuff sitting there, it's gathering dust because they've never known how to use it, and it's the wrong equipment. So please, just for starters, do not start from there. If you already have a laptop, and or you maybe have a smartphone, they are two brilliant tools. Do you know that most smartphones have a lens on it that's better than the Hubble Space Telescope? So just think about that. I mean, yeah, and we're carrying this around. You don't need to go anywhere else. Of course, smartphones have got limitations, but they also have so many other advantages as well. So back to your question now, where do we start? Where do we put the lens? Write these 3 words down: level, locate, lock. First thing you do is you put your lens wherever it is to eye level. And I'm looking straight into the lens now. I can see it, and it's right at my eye level. Doesn't have to be exactly perfect, but you don't want it sitting on your desk. The first biggest mistake that we make is that we set up the camera for our convenience, because we're either sitting at a desk or our table is that height, and we open up the laptop and that's where the camera is. But what you're not thinking of is you're not thinking about what your viewer is seeing. And if your camera is low, it is shooting up at you. And so you get this quite horrible looking overshot where you're looking down. But you think about that, take everything you do online into the real world. Would you go up to someone who is sitting at a coffee, at a table, and talk to them and go right close up to them and look down over the top of them like that? Of course you wouldn't. It's intimidating. It's not a good way to build relationships. But that is what you're unwittingly doing when you have your camera low. So remember that your convenience always has consequences online. Your convenience always has consequences. So sometimes it might be a little bit of extra work for you, or a little bit uncomfortable to get these things set up this way. But the benefit is it helps you build that connection. So the first thing is eye level your camera. Then the second thing is you've got to locate your camera. Now, this is the biggest problem with smartphones. With smartphones, when we use selfie mode, by the way, when you're using your smartphone, because it's just easier to see yourself and set up the shot. The lenses on most smartphones these days, whether it's the back facing or the front facing lens, they're pretty much the same. And remember that you're probably going to downgrade your quality when you send it online, because bandwidth is it's as rare as hen's teeth these days. So having the best using the best quality lens is sort of irrelevant. But when you set up your shot, what we tend to do is we see ourselves in the middle of the screen, and we tend to look at ourselves. But the problem is that's not where the lens is on your camera. The lens is off to the side somewhere. Now I'll just move that in, and you can actually see what I do is I mark my lens with a little piece of tape. And then, so what I've done is located my lens. So you level the camera, then you locate. Now, sometimes you're wondering, if you've got a smartphone, it's pretty obvious with a laptop where your lens is. But with a smartphone, sometimes you might have one that's just all black around there. You can't see it. So how do you find your lens? You put it into selfie mode, and then you just take your finger and you start, when you're looking at it, going around, then eventually your finger will cover the screen and you go, ha ha,
Like
that's
this.
the lens. So yeah, just like that. That was it. That was perfect. So level, locate the lens, mark it. Then when you've marked it, you lock onto it, because how can you expect your audience to connect with you if you're not connecting with your audience? So if you're looking off at your face to the side, number one, okay, it'd be like me here. This is what it would be like. I would be doing the whole, interview like this. Are you connecting with me better here, or are you connecting with me better here now? Well,
Absolutely. When you're looking at me, yes.
you're looking at you. I'm talking to you, so you look straight down the barrel of the lens. Now, we've now unwittingly created a new problem for ourselves here, because when you're looking at the lens over here, you can see your face here. And what have you teachers, you did this. What have teachers and parents told us ever since we were kids? When you're talking to someone, you look them in the eye and engage people in a conversation. So you're now looking at your lens, and then you see your face, and it's like a magnet. So my face would be over here and I'm talking to the lens, and then I would do that. I go, oh no, I'm supposed to be looking at the lens. And then oh no. So, and now you look shifty, which is even worse. So what you've got to do is you've got to cover up your screen. Easy, put a Post-it note over it. What I do is I have a little piece of card, just old shoebox, and it slides in my little holder.
Nice.
Like that.
Strategy.
And then it's the little window down the bottom is so I can see my counter. So I can see the numbers going up, and the little cutout to the side over here, it's all back to front to me.
I know.
that little cutout there, that's for the on-off button. Now, here's a problem with a lot of smartphones, and even you get this on laptops as well, is they make the record button red. Dumb idea. You want it to be red when it's on. I mean, any camera, you push the button, you see the red light go on. So how many times have you all done this? We've done a selfie, some sort of video, and then we've hit off, and then we walk around until we get the next shot, and then we go, oh, something's wrong, and we go back and check the previous shot, and it's 15 minutes of our feet walking around.
Yes.
Because we think we've hit the button on, and it hasn't been on. It's actually we've turned the camera off, and so we're out of sync. So that is why I have the little window for my counter. I always say counting in my head. Have I seen the counter? Can I look? 1, 2, and I go, bingo, I'm recording. I don't have to worry about it now. So level, locate, and lock. You do those 3 things, and you are going to connect with your audience a whole heap better.
Thanks. That's great. And when you were holding up your phone, I noticed that you had it landscape, but does it matter, landscape or portrait? What's your...
This big question. How many days have you got to discuss this? There is no answer to this. What you have to do is you have to know your audience. You have to know how your audience consume video. So as if your audience is all on Facebook, and if you were doing Facebook Live, most people on Facebook are vertical video. And so Facebook has adapted video to be played natively, what's called natively vertical. So you will get the whole screen if you put it vertical. If you put a horizontal video on Facebook, it only takes up that much of the screen. So it's harder to see, but that means that part of the screen and that part of the screen go to somebody else, and that's competing for your attention. If you were for LinkedIn, or if you were doing, if you're on a platform where everyone was watching on laptops, then they would be watching horizontally like that. There is no answer for this, but one thing I do is I shoot horizontal. And what I do is I make sure that my important information is in the center square of the screen there. And that means that if it goes into vertical, quite often they crop it and make a square video. I'm pretty well sure that if I've got any text or any relevant information, it stays in that center square. So regardless of what platform it's going to go on. I look. This is vertical and horizontal is just purely an argument of fashion, and it's intergenerational. Like a lot of us more mature people tend to watch it this way. Younger audiences tend to watch it this way. But there's big arguments on this, but it's never going to be resolved because cinemas aren't all of a sudden going to build their, rebuild buildings and make vertical screens. So
No.
anyway, yeah, let's move on from that. That's a pet talk.
Thanks. Tell me about when you're setting up eye level with your camera so that you're looking straight at it. And so what about the background?
Okay. Keep your background. I love saying this because I'm almost like a hypocrite when I say it. I say, keep the background relatively simple. This is a set behind me, but this is a set because my story, I use my story of being an army sniper and a globetrotting camera and all that. And this reflects who I am and what I do. So I've made a bit of a trade-off with it being busy because that benefits me. However, keeping a background relatively simple helps focus the attention on you and your face. With backgrounds, we're at home and what have we got? We've generally got a white or a beige wall or a brick wall or something. Okay, so here's what we can do to help, break that up a bit. Number one, don't be up against the wall. When you're up against the wall, and we're going to talk about lighting in a minute, that if you do put a light on, what it does is it casts the shadows, quite hard shadows, directly on the wall behind you. It's distracting, and it also, I know we're all doing this on a shoestring, but it actually makes you look cheaper. It makes you look like you're just doing this in a cupboard somewhere, but it doesn't have to be this way, because I'll give you some techniques that we can make a small unworkable area pop out a bit. So if you do have a background and if you've only got a white wall, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to position yourself in the frame off to the side like this. So then you've got all this white wall behind you. Now we can use that white wall somehow. So you can either put a board up there, you can just put some big bits of, butcher's paper and do your writing on that. Maybe you could put a, temporarily hang a little wall hanging or something there. But if you've got a white wall, don't sit in the middle of it like this, because then there's nothing you can do with that. Or if you do have a white wall directly behind you or a plain color, what you can do is get a piece of card, or that would sort of go, what's that, about a meter maybe across, and maybe about that, like 900 by 600, typical size. Put it on the wall behind you with a bit of blue tack or something, so it comes through, sort of the top of the shoulders across here, and breaks up that wall. Now, here's a really nice little hack. If you have a piece of clothing, just say you were wearing a jacket, or maybe had a handkerchief in your pocket, or you had a tie on. If you make that a color, so you've got red on there. If you had that red, not the red jacket, but had red in the middle, if you make the board red, that's that 900, 600 behind you, it is amazing how this color, it's called art direction. This art direction, bang, it just makes the shot look so much better, like you've put a million, hours of thought into it. So a simple thing, just by having a theme color, and maybe then having that theme color in your, if you've got a whiteboard, you could maybe put a strip of the color around the whiteboard or something. All of a sudden, visually, it just looks like, oh, this is meant to be.
And I think that's a wonderful idea with the cardboard, just to do that. I, as many of my viewers know, came to self-isolation to my parents' holiday home, and just with my suitcase that I'd had from overseas, and just with the a few clothes that I had, and then New Zealand locked down, so I'm stuck here until the end of lockdown. And who knows what level 3 will look like, and whether I'm even allowed to travel home then. But you just do with what you can. So I don't have anything except my laptop, and the background wall of the dining room is what I've done. And I've also put my laptop so I could have it level on top of a coffee table on top of the table, so that I could do that. And so that plain background, and something, Julian, you said to me before, was don't point out the background. Don't say, look, I'm sorry for the background, because then people will notice it. So I thought that was a great little tip. Don't apologize to your children if you're making videos for them and say, look, I'm sorry about this. But one of the things I have noticed is make sure your background isn't somewhere people are going to walk past and be distracting, because I've seen quite a bit.
That's a great point. It's simple that distractions dilute your message. Distractions dilute your message. So anything in there that is distracting, that is competing with the message that you're putting out, or competing with your face, because this is our communication tool, is a problem. So some things like that, we can talk about this now, is what you wear. Wear a block color if you can. We all, we have our floral designs and our stripes and that works in the real world. But on camera, that competes. And you can see that this is a general rule of thumb in visual industries. Just go and get any typical women's magazine. Oh gosh, I'm probably going to, whatever the word is for those type of magazines. But have a look at, and they do photo shoots of celebrities in their homes. Have a look at what they're wearing, and they're all wearing block colors, because it focuses the attention on the face. And while we're talking about that, if you're somebody who your jingle jangle bangles are your thing, you're that sort of person, when you're talking and it's just tick, 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 tick on a microphone, it's a real problem. If you have big rings and you're sitting at a desk and you're tapping, it's a distraction. If you're one of these people who has a pen and does this, distracts, everything dilutes your message. You see this is why TV news readers, except for those ancient old men on there, but they go for people. It's not, they're generally okay looking, but what they have is symmetry. They have facial symmetry, and most of us don't. And that is because, when your eye, all of us are like one eye is a bit higher than lower. When you've got good symmetry, it's not distracting. And they do that on purpose, so you listen to what is being said.
Yeah, and that makes sense. And we might not have any control over our facial symmetry, but our kids who we're doing videos for know what we look like, know who we are, and love us for that. So, but that is something that is really hard if you haven't done this videoing before. And now I totally understand when I'm FaceTiming with my daughter and she spends her whole time preening. And you get on a Zoom call with your colleagues right now and you can see everyone going, oh, is that what I look like? But don't worry about that. Just, block colors, do what you can to be visually representing and not distracting, and then share your information.
And I'm just going to jump in there for one moment. You should never be the person who decides whether your video is good enough to go out, because we are all incredibly self-critical about ourselves. In television and newspapers, everyone who writes a story, it goes through the sub-editing process. The sub-editor is someone, regardless of how experienced you are, who looks at your content and your script and goes, no, in, out, go. Because what they're doing is looking at it with an objective eye. We bring all this emotional baggage with us about, how we look, what we're writing, how difficult it was to get that information. But if it doesn't advance the story, it doesn't belong in there. So when you look at yourself, you really should ask someone to go, hey, can you just have a look at this for me? What do you think? Was this? And they'll probably go, yep, works for me. That's all you need, because if you get involved in the process, you'll just self-sabotage yourself.
Absolutely. Just do it, put it on, give it to your students. They love you for who you are. Julian, when I do videos, I prefer to stand. And are you standing or are you sitting right now?
I'm halfway in between. So this is standing, this is sitting. So I'll show you what I do. This is an IKEA stool, but you don't need one of these.
Yeah, like a little stool.
This one, it's just cheap. It's, I can put $30 or something. But what I'm saying is it spins. But I just like something about this height, because number one, this is a very low room. here. And it's a problem for me to stand, to be quite honest. But I like sitting here because I like this middle height, because it means I'm sort of standing and I can rock forward on this. I can talk and I can spin. I have these boards that come down here and I can spin around on it. But what you don't want to be doing is you don't want to be sitting in a chair low, because what that does is it physically crunches you in, and then you can't present out. So what you're doing is you're sort of like, you're thinking inwards when you should be projecting outwards. And while we're talking about that, I want to talk about hands. You want to frame yourself wider, and we were gifted with these beautiful rapport building tools. When we were cavemen and we were walking on the plains and we saw another caveman who had a big, wild beast, we thought, oh, that'd be a good for dinner. How were we going to get that? Well, we'd probably get our weapon of choice, which is a rock, and we got to hide those rocks to get close. And once you get close, swipe them over the head. So closed hands in our lizard brain, our thinking, represents some sort of threat. Opposite that, open hands show that we're no threat. And this is why we wave hello with an open hand. We go, oh, it's not my fault. We're showing we are no threat. We can use this to build KLT, know, like, and trust, when we're making our videos. So frame a little bit wider and get these hands in there. These are all little subliminal things, but you stack them on the top of each other. They have a great effect. So build your KLT, and these can punctuate your prose. So you can show the enormity of your idea. You can underline the points you're making. You can contain an argument. You can talk with precision. But if you framed yourself just like this, quite often you keep these wonderful tools out.
Absolutely. And so I find when I'm standing, I have more energy. I can use my hands a lot more. But when I sit, my energy flops, and I definitely don't use my hands as much either. So
we should talk about the glass wall. Yeah. So there is the glass wall between you and me. Have you been to the theatre? And if you look and you watch the theatre from where you are in your seat, and everything sort of looks, it's nice sets and the actors look, fine. But if you meet an actor when they've come off stage face to face, you go, oh my goodness, because their makeup is so over the top. It's just, but they need that to project that distance to the people further back in the cinema. And the same thing happens with video. You've got it's transference of energy. You've got to push through this glass wall. Now, with that, you don't want to be jazz hands or windscreen wipers like this, but you do want to be up, and you do want to be looking at the lens and connecting. I always think of it like, when you've been on holidays or you're sitting down and talking to someone about where you've been and where you'd like to go, watch how you talk then. You'll be, oh, it was wonderful. We were over there and there was this thing and I can't remember. That's how you need to present when you're on video, because it helps push through this glass wall.
Great. And just a point on the makeup, you don't need to be all made up for this, for your videos, for the teachers. I have none on except a tiny bit of mascara and lipstick, and basically that's all I have. And, don't worry about that. Just dress like you would, make up like you would maybe when you're at school, so that you're not having to, you're not doing a movie star and you're not on the theatre set for the teachers who are watching. Just a couple of other things as we begin to wrap up. One, the length of a video. So one of the questions is from one of the viewers is about students having digital media assignments and activities. So if you're going to make a video for an assignment, a video that gives them direction, how long should those videos be?
Again, this is like vertical or video. But basically, we all we don't have shorter attention spans. What we do is we have much more competition for our attention. So you look, as a rule of thumb, if you want me to give you something, I'll say 2 minutes. That is like a sweet spot. Anything over 5 minutes, it drops off. But you watch all viewership. People flick in, and we all do this. Watch watch 5 seconds. Nah, we move on to the next. We move on to the next. Now, I mean, this is educational content. There is an imperative that they have to do it, but you can make this more engaging. So the general rule of thumb is 1 point per video. So if you can make, if your assignment has 5 points, then that's 5 videos that you're going to make. Keep them short, keep them sweet, and keep everyone with a clear call to action at the end. What do you need to do now you finish watching this video? And also getting into the videos, let me just make a point. If you're thinking about putting, like I'm going to make up a little title, okay, don't. Because no one watches titles anymore. When you watch Netflix and what's the first thing that comes up, when you've watched the first episode, skip intro. Nobody wants to see these. So start your videos with proposing a hook. Get them hooked in. So pose a question, state an unusual fact, do something that's relevant to that content, and then quickly explain what you're going to do in the rest of this video. Give them the content, and then give them a call to action, a clear what they need to do next.
Next steps, absolutely. Julian, we touched on it, but we didn't actually talk earlier about lighting. And Louise is just saying, my glasses don't glare very much, and how do I manage that? I don't know, that's maybe just fluke.
Yeah, no, brilliant. Great question. So number one, when you have no lights, if you only have a smartphone or a laptop, first thing you're going to do is you're going to face a window.
Which is what
then you can get some natural light coming in on you. Then you can, look at, okay, how can I manage the background? There's different ways that you can fix it up. Then the next thing you want to do is you want to listen. You want to listen for distracting noises. So if you have a really noisy air conditioner, or there's, accelerating traffic outside, you might want to think, where's the quietest spot that I can go to? If you get to a quiet spot, do this, clap. And if you hear what it's like, think of being on a basketball court, you get that reverberance and that echo, that's another distraction. So what you can do is just get some doonas, some pillows, whatever, and start scattering them around the floor out of shot. That will just help break down those flat surfaces which create these, sound echoes. Then if you do have a light, you only need a desk lamp. And any light that you can find, where you put it is directly above the lens, shooting back into your eyes. If you're up against a wall, the closer you can get the light to where the actual lens is, so if that was the lens, if you can put the light right there, it's going to make those annoying shadows almost get hidden behind your head. And there was another thing, and I've forgotten what I was going with it. Yeah.
So natural lighting, which is, again, all I have, and facing a window. So that's just something easy to do. Absolutely.
Yeah. And when you shine the light in your eyes, if you go, oh, I know what I was going to say. If you go, oh, yeah, but that's really bright, it's working. That's what it's meant. That's what it's meant to be like. And here's the thing. The closer you get the light to where the lens is, the younger you're going to look.
Oh, now I had a question about that, because you said you could tell us how to make ourselves look younger. So that's it.
That's it. Put the light as close to the lens as possible. So in glamour photography, there's a thing called a glamour light, and essentially it's one reasonably hard light, and it sits a little bit higher than the lens, but it's still pretty close to the lens. All this other, because this is what I'm saying about, you'll go online and get this information. You need 3-point lighting with a key light and a fill light and a backlight. No, you don't. If you know what you're doing with those, you can use them really effectively. If you don't, you're just creating issues and problems, and you're throwing money away.
So that's interesting. Thank you. All right. So last tips about camera confidence. What else can you suggest just to help teachers who really don't like to be on camera, who really don't want to see themselves, but know that they have to do this? They're going to be sharing these videos with their students. What's some last points around camera confidence, Julian? Okay,
let's do a little example together. One of the biggest problems people go, oh, I don't how I look. Don't like how I look. None of us like how we look, right? So just get over that one. Number two, we all go, yeah, but I don't like how I sound. Sounds so Australian or Kiwi. Okay. Here's what's happening. You are not hearing yourself how you normally hear yourself. When we speak, we hear ourselves two ways. We hear ourselves convectively, which is where the sound goes through the air, bounces off the walls, comes back into our ears. And then we hear ourselves conductively. That is where, conductively, where the sound comes up through our bones in our ears and into our ears. And it's a deeper resonant sound. Everyone, take your hands. We're going to put them over our ears and press firmly and count together to 5. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Did you hear how that was a deeper resonant sound? So all your life when you speak, you hear this convective and this conductive sound. And what happens is you hear a mix of the two. But when you listen to yourself back on video, there is no conductive sound. It's been stripped out. So all of a sudden, it just sounds weird to you, and it sounds really thin and awful and tinny. And you go, throw your hands up there and you go, I told you I was no good at video. But nobody else has ever heard you like that. You're the only person who can hear yourself with both these sounds. And tell me this. All your life, when you have walked into a classroom or to your friends or and you started speaking to people, go, oh, don't. Oh, that's horrible. Stop it. No, of course they don't. So when you hear yourself, understand there's nothing wrong with you. Every person who goes on video experiences this same thing. So take those concerns, put them in a little box, lock the key, throw away the key.
Great. Thank you so much. There's just so many little tips that we can do to make us feel more confident. And I think, I don't think our children are expecting us to be brilliant at this. They're not expecting us to be perfect. They know that you're giving something a go. And for the teachers who are doing this, you are modeling great learning. You might make mistakes, and that's perfectly fine. We want children to make mistakes. That's how we learn. That's how the world rolls. And so be a great model for that as you use these tips and ideas. So thank you so much, Julian, for those tips and ideas. And I know that you've got a free little online course that people might like to be able to find out about. And so I'll put the details in the comments so that people can find out. So thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks for asking me.
Awesome. So just to let everybody else know, on Thursday at 11 o'clock New Zealand time, I'm going to be interviewing the stunningly amazing Rowena Cesarin McEvoy, who is probably one of the most positive people on this planet. And she has a lot of ideas and strategies. And we're going to really chat about what next? What happens next after lockdown? What is our life going to be like? Are we going to talk about a bit of self-leadership and who are we becoming during this process? So please join me for that. And if you've missed any of the other episodes of Spectrum TV, they're all on our website now, spectrumeducation.com, and just go to where it says TV and articles and you'll find them there. So please, if you're watching this as the replay, you can still comment. We get your comments and we love your comments. So thank you so much. So again, thank you, Julian, and I look forward to seeing everybody on Thursday. Thanks so much. Bye for now.